Good morning, I'm Tricia Martland. I'm the program director for the Criminal Justice Program, and I'm also a professor in the School of Justice Studies.
Cool.
I'm Melissa Rosano. I'm a professor in the Criminal Justice Program as well, and I am a psychologist by training, an experimental research psychologist. And so I focus a lot on the intersection between law and psychology. For those of you who might be interested in that, I can talk about that later.
I'm Dave Lambert. I'm the Assistant Dean in Justice Studies, and I'm also the Director of the Justice System Training and Research Institute on campus.
Nice, awesome.
Megan and Brittany, do you want to just introduce yourselves?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Brittany Damaris. I'm currently a senior at Roger Williams, and I'm a criminal justice major and psychology minor.
I'm Megan. I'm also a senior and a psych and Spanish minor.
Cool.
Great. So I'm going to begin by going through our presentation, and as Felicia shared, if you have questions, we're going to go ahead and at the end of the presentation, it's not terribly long, we'll have a mechanism to allow you to ask questions, and then any of us can answer them. So I'm going to get started now. So within our School of Justice Studies, we have a number of different graduate programs and undergraduate programs, and you'll see them here. Our criminal justice program is ranked in the top 6%. And we also have, and we're going to talk about this in a later slide, a graduate program in criminal justice, one we call our 4+1 program. We have a program for legal studies, forensic science, networking and assurance studies, and these are all under the umbrella of our School of Justice Studies in Bristol. Today we'll obviously focus on our criminal justice major, and hold on, I'm just going to minimize, there we go. And in our criminal justice major, we have required courses and elective courses. This is just a list of our required courses here, and they are building block courses. So they start at the 100 level, which is our introduction to criminal justice, and then they build on them. One of the classes that I teach, which is down here at the bottom, is a juvenile justice class. So we teach many classes that focus specifically on adults in the criminal justice program, and then we obviously focus on policing here. We talk about criminology and corrections. In the juvenile justice class, we focus specifically just on juveniles, and we're one of the few programs that actually has a class just devoted to juvenile justice because it's so different. Then our very last class is a Justice Studies capstone, which pulls in information and from all the different classes from elective classes as well as major classes. Bear with me while I sort of find my mouse here. There I go. In our elective courses, we have a number of different classes. We have a CJ internship. We have a crime prevention class. We have a professor that does a lot of research in youth gangs in different areas, and he has a youth gang class where he shares a lot of that research. Organized crime, criminal procedure, and then because we also have the legal studies program in the School of Justice Studies, there's obviously a large overlap with legal classes, so we have criminal law, cases and controversy. Legal psychology. Melissa, you want to share a little bit about that class since you teach it?
Sure. So we have a very diverse group of faculty members. So I'm a psychologist, but we have sociologists, we have criminologists, we have JD PhDs. And so what you'll see in our elective courses is that emerging where people tend to offer classes in their particular specialty. So for me, that's legal psychology, which some of you might be more familiar with the term forensic psychology. You can kind of use those two terms interchangeably. But it's essentially the intersection between psychology and law, and that can be everything from an assessment clinical focus, so things like insanity and competency and risk assessment and child custody evaluation, to things like eyewitness behavior, jury decision making. For me, my area of research is police interrogations and confessions, including true and false confessions. And so that's a course that we would focus largely on those things. And I teach that at the undergraduate level, but then also a couple of specialty topics in the graduate level that the 4+1 students can take.
Thank you. there's not a class there's a class up here that I teach that I don't see on the list. I'm just going to share a little bit about. I run a legal advocacy clinic, and I specifically run it for School of Justice Studies students who are juniors and seniors. And it allows my students to be trained to work with victims of domestic violence. The last portion of the course, which is, I think, what sort of makes it stand on its own, is the students are able to go out into the courthouses in Rhode Island, and they are able to work with domestic violence advocates, specifically helping victims of domestic violence obtain orders of protection. So it's really a class, it's like an externship and an internship at the same time. They have the classroom component, and then they also have the externship piece where they're going out into the community, working with victims, clients, and then helping them through the court system. So I've been running this now for, goodness, close to 12 years. And it's been a great opportunity for students to really see what that community looks like, and how victims travel through the criminal justice system at each level. And we've had a number of students take that class, go on into policing as well as corrections and advocacy, who have found it to be really helpful. So that's not up here, but that's another class that that's an elective course. So you're aware, and maybe some of our students can even share this with you, advisement is a really important component of what we do as faculty members. Every student that comes to Roger Williams is assigned to a member of our faculty. Melissa, Professor Rosano, excuse me, has a group of students. I have my own group of students, and we meet with them. Typically, we would at least meet with them a couple times a year to be able to plan their coursework for the next semester. But I would say, based on the community that we have, which is nice and small, and we get to really know our students, I find I meet with my students all the time. I have classes with them. If they have questions about advisement, questions about classes, they email, we're always talking. So it's really much more of a relationship that we have with the students than just an advisement relationship.
Professor Martling, can I jump in here for a minute?
Sure, please do.
So in case you're wondering what in the world we did this semester, given that we all are away. So just to share my own personal experience. So we normally meet face-to-face with our students before they can sign up for classes. So that way we can have a discussion about what classes they're going to take. And then beyond that, career aspirations, what are the big picture plans? And we do that face-to-face, and we have to lift their hold before they can register. And that's our way of making sure that you're staying on track with your program. So there isn't a surprise at the end of, oh, you didn't take 6 credits, right? So I don't see a lot of that at all, because we're really pretty on top of it. So this semester, once we all had to leave for home, we had advising coming up right after spring break. And so what I've done is one-on-one Zoom meetings with each of my students. So it's essentially been face-to-face, where we talked through the same things we would normally talk through, probably a little bit more, just because we're had the opportunity to connect and see how they're doing. And I can share my screen so I can show them what their degree program looks like. So that's what I did for advising this semester. Just because we had to leave didn't mean that went away.
Thank you for sharing that. Very important. Actually, could I have you stay on and talk about the living learning community? Because I just pulled that slide up.
Oh, sure. So we have a lot of living learning communities at Roger Williams where you can self-select into various groups. And one of and what I mean by that is then you live with a group of people. So when you get assigned to a dorm, you're assigned into a living learning community. And they do them for, maybe the students can speak more to the other ones, but I can speak to the criminal justice ones, because I think I was the advisor for 5 or 6 years. And so a group of freshmen every year would live together, and then they would take my Intro to Criminal Justice course. And the idea behind that is you're living and learning with a group of students, so they can serve as a support system. So you've got people with common interests, you can study together. And then living learning communities are allocated a certain budget where we can really go above and beyond what we can do in a typical class. So we're provided with a budget where we would take students on outings. So for example, my living learning community every year went down to the ACI, which is the Adult Correctional Institution in Rhode Island, and we would spend 4 or 5 hours touring the facilities down there. I'm able to do that actually for the most part with all of my Intro to CJ courses, which is really nice. But certainly for the living learning community, it's a little bit easier from a budgeting perspective. My students would participate in police ride-alongs. we would typically go to a play in either Boston or Providence, and something that's related to the justice system or something that we're learning. And there was an RA who lives with them or near them, I'm not exactly sure how that works, who would do things like study groups or put on other programming that's related to criminal justice. So it's a really nice way to, especially if you're nervous about sort of finding your place at Roger Williams, I think it's a nice way to join one of these because you have an immediate cohesive group of people who you know you have something in common with.
Thank you. Going down our list here, we also have listed the John Jay Society, which is a criminal justice student association. We have a mock trial program. One of the nice things about the mock trial program, for those of you who might have done it in high school or are currently doing it in high school, it allows students from not just the School of Justice Studies, but at Roger Williams who are outside the School of Justice Studies to have the opportunity to put on trials. They work with attorneys in the School of Justice Studies, and then they compete. And so we've had some great successes with our mock trial program. If any of you have any specific questions about it, Professor Newcity from the Legal Studies program is the person who runs that, and she does a fabulous job. We also have a Distinguished Speakers program where we bring in speakers from the community come and share their experiences. And in addition, taking this much more broadly, Roger Williams is the only university with a law school, and it includes the opportunity for students to listen to some of the speakers from the law school. So we've had Supreme Court justices come from the US Supreme Court, and they've spoken, and we've been able to broadcast that. So legal studies and criminal justice students can listen to the interviews, and that it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity for many of our students. Another thing that makes us very unique, Dean Lambert, are you still on? Perhaps not. We have a Justice System Training and Research Institute, which focuses specifically on training police officers in Rhode Island and New England. So to give you an example, one of the things we're currently working on is putting together a training for school resource officers and patrol officers who have direct contact with juveniles. And so they teach mediation, they teach all sorts of different levels of training specifically for—
I can jump in too, Trish, when you get a second.
Oh, fabulous. I'm going to have you discuss a little bit about some of the work that you do
Sure.
with police officers, but also the benefit to our criminal justice students with some of the work that you do.
Sure. So we have JSTR is essentially a professional development center for police departments across New England, and as well as other public safety and criminal justice agencies. So we work principally in coordination with the New England Association of Chiefs of Police. We sponsor their Command Series program, which is a number of different training programs for their first line supervisor training, mid-management, and executive development programs for people who want to go on to become executive level command staff for police departments. We did about around 30 different courses last year. We probably put through about 1,200 different professionals in the field through those different 30 programs, including some other projects. We also have some technical assistance we're doing. We're working with the Rhode Island Department of Corrections on a sequential intercept mapping program where we're trying to help with their reentry program and mapping out the different intake places along the path of criminality where people can be, where we can intervene and assist them in turning their lives around. We also have a National Institute of Justice subaward working with the New Jersey State Police to look at their information sharing system along their crime gun and crime violence problem in New Jersey. And we're just beginning that. We also, in terms of our student participation, what makes us, I think, a good niche for students is we, number one, have 4 to 5 work study students each semester that work in our institute. So they help us support those particular training programs, some of that technical assistance. It's also the opportunity for students to do undergraduate research. So we have the ability to assist some of the agencies that we work with. A lot of times, for instance, in the crime analysis realm, they don't necessarily have resources in a small police department to do their own analytics, but we can support those issues. We can support them with looking at research and other types of funding mechanisms so they can start to build those things. So that's something we're looking forward to in getting more students involved. It's also an opportunity to network. We have police departments that come in and out of there. We have corrections on a regular basis that we work with. So for instance, about a month ago, before all this occurred, we had a program from the Department of Justice and the International Association of Chiefs of Police come in to talk about the hiring crisis and selection crisis that police departments across the country are facing. So we had some national experts come in, we had students in the room, we had police departments, and we sort of brainstormed about some of the problems they're seeing and how we can try to fix those problems and try to find out exactly what students are interested in and really what's holding students back from looking at going into policing careers. So that was a really productive session. It was a good opportunity for students to really share their thoughts, because it was really the first time that we've ever seen where anybody's asked potential candidates why aren't they applying for these decisions. So they're currently putting together a compendium of the results of that particular program. In addition, last week we had an online session, a facilitated discussion with about 60 police officers and practitioners talking about how they're dealing with the pandemic issue. We tried to get a session together to reach out to organizations to see, first of all, what they needed in terms of their continuity of operations planning that they are or aren't doing, and try to come up with some best practices and some collaborations for how we can assist them in better protecting their officers, in planning for their staffing shortages that they may foresee down the road, and talking about some of the health and wellness issues that all these departments are now facing. So, it's a very interactive environment. We have a lot of opportunities for students to get involved if they choose to get involved. And, we're really excited about that. In addition, we're trying to begin a summer internship program at the Institute for students as well. So that's pretty much all. I can answer questions on JSTRI later.
Thank you so much. Actually, while I have you, Dean Lambert, I know I already passed the slide on internships, and I know you run the internship component. Could you just say a few words about what that might look like for interested students?
Sure. For justice studies students, if you're a straight criminal justice major, it's an option. You don't have to do it. It's a requirement for our legal studies and our cybersecurity majors. But essentially, we do it on a semester basis. You can do it fall, spring, or you can do a summer internship. It's essentially requires 120 hours in the field with another 15 hours of classroom/online learning that we use to support the program throughout the semester. But it's essentially for junior, senior level people. You have to have a certain GPA. You have to get past your freshman year to do these things. But it's a really good program. We're really excited about experiential learning because we believe that it gives people a leg up in terms of understanding away from the sort of the classroom what public safety, criminal justice, some of the nonprofit agencies really do on a day-to-day basis. So that's a program that we support, and we work through with students to provide internships in conjunction with our career planning center.
Thank you. And just to sort of tag on that, our faculty typically brings in people from the community to speak to our classes, and there's always connections like that going on. In my juvenile justice class, I brought in a Providence police officer that I worked with when I was a criminal prosecutor, and this person came in and spent the better part of an hour talking to students about his work, and then he entertained questions at the end and made connections with many of the students for internship possibilities at the Providence Police Department. So there's always that connection for the students, which has turned into, in many situations, into great internship opportunities and job opportunities later on. Perhaps not right now, but we also have a study abroad opportunity, 2-week and full semester opportunities. Prior to this situation, we had a lot of students who took advantage of our study abroad opportunities, and many of those students would go abroad and they're able to gain credit back at the university upon their completion of their experiences. And it's not just abroad outside of the US, we also have programs with in Washington, DC as well. So there's many opportunities there when we get back to normal, so to speak. As promised, this is the slide on our criminal justice major and 4+1 program. So this program allows exceptional undergraduate criminal justice majors to apply during their junior year to be accepted into our Masters of Science criminal justice program. So it's an opportunity really to shave off where you would typically do a 4-year undergraduate degree and 2-year master's. You're now doing it in 5 years instead of 6, which is obviously a huge savings financially. Students have to meet the standard criteria for entrance, and accepted students, the way that it would roll out is they take 2 courses of graduate work their senior year, and then the following year, one in the fall and one in the spring. I have to say, I have a number of undergraduate students who are now part of our criminal justice program. So this has been a great success as someone who teaches in both of those programs, and Professor Rasan, I know you do as well, that graduate program has really grown. I'm sure you would agree. Okay. And this is just a list of the professors that we have in our School of Justice Studies. As you know from the first slide, we have a number of different majors, so that's why we have a number of different professors. And I can share with you as a faculty member that one of the nice things about having a group like this was that we can all reach out to one another. If I had a particular student who had a interest in something, I know I can always, reach across to one of the other professors and make an introduction if they don't already know the student. And we're always there to support one another and certainly to support the students most of all. I think that's the end, it is, of my presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Do you want to have Brittany and Megan introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their experience as current seniors?
That'd be great.
Either one can go first.
I'll go first. So I wanted to talk more about the living learning community because our freshman year, me and Meg were actually in the living learning community, and Professor Rosano was our advisor. And so we really enjoyed that experience because, like Professor Rosano was saying, it helps you when you're all in a class together and you get to do things like study together. And then for me, I was really nervous going into my first week of college, and it was nice going into a classroom where you kind of knew everyone. And then also, like Professor Rosano was talking about, we got to do a lot of fun things. Like we got to go visit a prison, and we got to go on ride-alongs. And then we even had an assignment where we had to go sit down and listen to court, which I really liked because it was like first semester freshman year, and I felt like we were getting experience right away. So that was really nice. And then Professor Martlin briefly talked about Washington, D.C. So last semester, I had the opportunity to study away in Washington, D.C. And at Roger Williams, there's a program called the Washington Internship Institute. And so basically, you'll be living, if you do it, you'll be living in D.C. for a full semester. And you do an internship 4 days a week, and then you do classes 1 day a week, but it's only 2 classes. And so I had the opportunity to intern at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and I was in the misdemeanors unit, and that was just a really great experience. And like, I really enjoyed it because DC is so much fun. And then I definitely learned a lot being in that situation. So it was really beneficial.
I also was in the LLC with Brittany, as she said, and it was a great experience. And just like she said, you get a great group of friends right off the bat that that are going to be in class with you, and you can study. And it's just like a good support system when you're first starting out as a freshman, because you don't really know everything that's going on. And then you get kind of to have this group of friends that you can take with you through the rest of the time at the university. I also did the Washington Study Away program, which was really, really good. U.S. Attorney's Office. I was in the felony and major crimes unit, and it was really nice to be able to get the internship experience, but also have the chance to kind of get away from Rhode Island for like the little bit to see like the heart of everything in Washington, D.C., which is really, really cool. The program is really good because while you're down there, you are interning 4 days a week, but you also get the full semester credit load. So you're not losing anything by going down there and interning more than you're going to class, because you only have class 1 day a week, but it's a full class day. I also had the opportunity last summer to intern at the Defense Security Service down in Quantico, Virginia, which is now it's in the transition period, but is now officially the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. They've grown much bigger over the past couple months. And it's a lot easier to get these intern opportunities with the professors and faculty that we have at school, because they all have a lot of great connections and are really willing to help you find them and help with your resume to get it to look good, and cover letters and letters of reference. And don't be afraid to like go and ask them about any sort of like ideas or aspirations you have like early on, because they'll help you from the start with getting that going.
Perfect. Thank you. And so if anybody has any questions from here on out, you can feel free to put them into the chat, and then any one of us will answer them. I'll go ahead and read the questions out loud, and then whoever would like to answer can kind of just jump in. So the first question is, if my goal is to be a criminal profiler or a forensic psychologist, should I double major in criminal justice and psych?
I'll jump in on that one. So it certainly wouldn't hurt, I guess, is my answer. There's no definite right or wrong way, but if your goal is to practice or work directly, particularly in a clinical setting as a legal psychologist or forensic psychologist, you would definitely want to major in psychology. And I think it's a fantastic combination to double major in criminal justice and psychology. Psychology is probably our most common double major. I don't know that I've ever seen the numbers, but my gut and instinct tells me that it is. I advise a lot of double majors in psych and CJ. And I can tell you that it's really easy here. So they blend beautifully. You still have room for even general electives, even when you're doing a double major. So I would say if that's where you think you want to go, that would be a really good plan.
Thank you. I just want to also talk about like double majoring, majoring and minoring, and what your curriculum looks like at Roger Williams. So 80% of our students actually graduate with more than one major, which is awesome. And they can be in two completely separate subjects, which is really great. I mean, you can put together so many different things. The first part of your degree is going to be those major requirements. So all those classes that you're taking to fulfill whatever your primary major is. The second part of it is going to be the Roger Williams University Core, and these are 5 classes taught through the university's values in such a broad range of subjects, and they really do make you a more well-rounded student as you're graduating, and they range from literature and philosophy, human behavior, aesthetics, which is like an art class, core science if you're not a science major, and then challenges of democracy. So you're going to take those 5 classes usually in your freshman and sophomore year. And then in your senior year, you have like a senior seminar, which kind of encompasses like every theme that you've ever learned from all of those classes. And then the other part of it is a personal core. And so I kind of like to describe this as a passion area of yours that's outside of your major. So that's kind of where you get students coming in that have, you know, 2 completely separate interests that can actually put them together at Roger Williams, which is really great. And it's kind of built into your curriculum already. So the double majoring, majoring and minoring, it's a really great way to put everything together. And Roger Williams does a really good job at that. So just in general, kind of wanted to talk about that.
Can I add to that, Felicia?
Yeah, please do.
So I think what you were you talking about the personal core as the core concentration?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. So all of our students are required to do a core concentration, which doesn't really mean anything probably to most of you, but you can think of it as a minor. So our students are required to minor in a discipline outside of their major. The difference between what we call a core concentration and what most other places call a minor is 1 course. So it is highly unusual that students just don't turn their core concentration into a minor. So most of you will leave with at least a major and a minor before you're done.
For sure. Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, I think I want to work in the justice system, but not sure in what capacity. So would a degree in criminal justice allow you to be flexible in career choice?
I can grab that, and Professor Orsano, if you want to add to it, I would say yes, specifically because it opens you up to not just policing and corrections, but also legal systems. And you know, it does give you the opportunity, like I said, to watch different things from the law school or legal studies, and also participate in many of the mock trial and other programs, so that if you did see a specific arena that was of interest to you, that you could pursue that.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here, and I don't know who needs to hear this out there, but I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute and say it's okay if you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your life right now.
For sure.
Right? Universities like to sort of know where you're headed, and that's why most students come in either in arts and sciences or at least tentatively majoring, but it's okay if you switch. It's okay if even your junior or your senior year, you're still not sure exactly what you're going to do with your degree. That's part of the purpose of college. You're going to get exposed to topics and courses you've never heard before. And there's enough flexibility within our programs that you can do that. So don't feel like you need to know right now what you want to do. I know that every time I take a group of intro to criminal justice students down to visit the prisons and we spend the day down there, walking away from that, at least 5 or 6 students say, you know, I never considered a career in corrections before, but now I think maybe this is something I'd like to explore. Right? So it's okay. Yes, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do with it, whether it's policing, corrections, some avenue of social work. I see that we have a social work question coming up. So yes, there's flexibility there. That's what it's designed to do.
Thank you. I could not agree more. So if anyone wants to talk about social work, so I do get this question a lot. You know, if someone's interested in being a social worker, what kind of path should they take at Roger Williams?
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add, so I've had a number of students in that legal advocacy clinic who also were getting, as you indicated, Professor Rossano, who were majoring in psychology. And that was the one area where they felt like they could put together the criminal justice and the psychology piece. And they were doing that kind of work out in the community. So for many of the students that I've had, that's their avenue, is advocacy. And again, the advocacy clinic only accepts people in their junior or senior year. So many of these students are sort of looking at different avenues, and it's only, you know, during their junior and senior year that they realize this is a place that sort of fits me. So that's one possibility. Did you want to talk about another?
Yeah, no, I would say probably we don't have a social work program per se, but I think a double major in psychology and CJ would serve you well in this capacity. And also through the internship programs, beyond just the legal advocacy, you can get a lot of hands-on social work type experience by doing those things. And also keep in mind that those internships teach you possibly what you want to do, but also what you don't want to do. So that is just as valuable. So sometimes you'll think, well, I want to be a social worker, and then you spend some time in that and say, you know what, that's actually not for me, and I want to try something else. So I think the more internship type experiences you can get, whether they're for credit, whether they're paid, whether they're volunteer, the better.
Very true.
Can I just jump in also?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think the traditional path for social work is to go and get a master's degree, to get an MSW. But I think, you know, as Professor Marklin and Rossano had mentioned, there's a lot of agencies that we work with on a regular basis. We have a victims academy that comes on campus to retrain in the summertime. Many of those agencies are going to hire people right out of school. They don't necessarily have master's degrees yet, but you know, a combination of forensic psychology and in criminal justice would serve them well in dealing with victims on a regular basis.
Thank you. So the next question is, do CJ majors have to take a language placement test, or is a language required? I can kind of just answer that if you'd like. So we don't have a language requirement at Roger Williams. If you wanted a minor or a major in a language as like a supplement piece or anything like that, so I majored in marine biology, but I had a minor in Spanish, you would just take a placement test for that subject just to figure out what level of classes you place into when you come to Roger Williams, but we don't have a language requirement or anything like that. The next question is, what percentage of students are commuters, and does the school have programs to make commuters feel more like a member of the community? Does anyone know the percentage off the top of their head? The last that I checked, I think it's 25% of our students are commuters. And I do know that we have a lounge specifically for commuters to kind of meet in and to go to if they want to do homework or anything outside of like the library or anything like that. And we do have a lot of clubs and organizations, and you can join literally any single one of them. And it is a very community feel at Roger Williams to begin with. So, you know, you'll fit right in for sure.
I believe there's actually a Commuter Club too, because I think one of my students
Yeah, I think it's a lounge and a club, and there's a lot of commuter specific things on campus too.
Yeah, and they're pretty active.
Thank you. The next question is, what % of the criminal justice majors are in the honors program?
No idea, but we have them.
Oh, yeah, definitely have them.
I'm working with an honors student right now who's actually been working with me for 3 years, and now he's doing his honors project. And I've had a handful of students over the past few years that have been in the honors program, so I have no idea what the percentage is, but it's
Awesome.
definitely, yeah.
And I would just add that as advisors, we continue to work with that program. So whatever level the student's at, we can support them and help them and guide them.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anyone have any other sort of questions? If you want to take yourself off mute, you're welcome to take yourself off mute and just ask a question straight to any one of us. You can ask questions about criminal justice, Roger Williams University. I'm from admission, so if you have any sort of admission questions, really this is for you guys to get more information here. So whatever questions you guys want to ask, feel free. There's a question that says, how would I go about joining the living learning community?
Isn't that just when you fill out the paperwork, when you get the paperwork for filling out your fall enrollment, it will just be an option that you can opt into. Is that right, Megan and Brittany?
Yeah, I think there's just like a little box you check off.
Yeah.
And were you able to specify criminal justice or one in general?
Yeah, I think you can, when you check the box, there's an option to do for your major, like specific ones. And then they have a couple other different types of living learning communities, but it's like right underneath it. So it's really easy to find.
Yeah.
I've never heard of someone not being able to get in one if they wanted one. So.
Yeah, I think everyone who puts it gets into it.
Yeah.
And the living learning communities are a really great option, as everybody has already mentioned. You get to live with a group of students that you're also taking a common class with, and then you have an academic advisor specific to that community. So I was in a biology one my freshman year, and I loved it. Again, we took our Bio 103 class together. Dr. Carrie Warren was our advisor, and if anyone knows her, she's like the greatest person ever. So it was really great. And it's kind of funny, like, I don't know how you did your LLC, like study sessions or anything like that, but she used to come like to our common room in our residence hall and do like study sessions, which was kind of weird to have like your professor like in your own home in a way, but it really does help you build such like a unique relationship with your professors. So the living learning communities are an awesome option for people to look into, and they're in such a wide range of subjects. Let's see, the next question is, I heard a lot of students leave campus on the weekends. Is that true? Is there something to do if you stay on campus during the weekend? I can just say from my experience, I had probably 3 or 4 friends. Some of them lived in Bristol, literally 5 minutes from campus, a couple other ones in Warwick and Cranston, Rhode Island, and they went home like once a month, if that. They really didn't go home often. There's so much to do on the campus on the weekends for sure. I don't know if Brittany and Megan want to kind of jump in on that too, but.
Yeah, I feel like it depends. Like, I know a few people that did go home frequently, but for the vast majority of people, I feel like everyone pretty much stayed on campus, and there is a ton of stuff to do. Like, they have this event called Roger After Dark, and I think it's on Saturdays, and they have like different things, like you can go and get food or do like different games and stuff, or like watch movies and stuff. So they have a lot of stuff. That's fun.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff to do on weekends, and then a lot of the clubs will organize events and stuff that you can go to. So there's always something to do if you're looking for something on the weekend.
You can always go to the library as well.
Thank you, Dean Lambert. Yes, the library is also a great option. Study hard, do your homework, all that
It's
stuff.
open late.
It is. It was open till like 2 a.m. I think, or past that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay, let's see. The next question is, can you talk more about the John Jay Society and what happens within that program?
I can take that a little bit. I was co-advisor for a couple of years, and it was quiet for a while, and then it's really started back up in the last few years, I think. And it's a student-run organization, and they're really very independent, but they have taken trips to New York City, I believe to Washington, D.C., maybe the year before last. They'll organize events to local criminal justice related places, like down to the ACI to tour the prisons. I know they've done that, to be taken in a background tour of a police department. They meet fairly regularly. They bring in a lot of speakers, so they'll bring in professionals, and so you can kind of get that one-on-one perspective of people working in the field. So yeah, it's an active organization, speakers, trips, that sort of thing.
And then to also add to that,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. My roommate Brianna is the president of it this year, and I know we had a lot of fun stuff planned before all this happened, and we had I think it was a woman who wrote a book about the New Bedford serial killer was going to come in and speak. So they have a lot of really interesting things planned. And then I know in the past people have been able to go on like ride-alongs and stuff. So like Professor Rosano said, it is a really active organization, and it is really like, it is worth it to do it, I think.
Yeah, we did have Maureen Boyle from Stonehill, who was going to come in and talk about her book Shallow Graves. We're going to try to put that off until probably the fall. But we've also had, we just recently had a retired investigator, Steve Johnson, who came in last semester to talk about the Whitey Bulger case up in Boston. And previous to that, we had some state troopers come in and talk about the Boston bombing investigation in 2013. So they're a very active group, and again, Megan and Brianna do a really good job in trying to organize things.
Thank you. Another question, is a pretty good question actually, is so how has remote learning been working out for students during this pandemic? And are classes live web-based, or are teachers more just posting lectures and assigning work? Good question.
I can speak on that a little bit. Every teacher that I have right now is doing things a little bit differently. But for the most part, my classes have like some sort of organized meeting at least once a week where we talk about everything like as a class. And then there is assigned work, but a lot of it is very similar to what we had planned on the syllabus anyway. So we knew like what we'd be learning the next following couple weeks and everything like that. So it's not too hard to adjust to the online class besides not meeting in person. But all of the professors I have right now are really adaptable to any sort of like critique on how to make it easier to get the material or how to adjust the class to make it more conducive to learning. So it hasn't been much of an issue.
I think the school's been very supportive in terms of providing a lot of online learning tools that we didn't have before. Done a really good job of getting ebooks and other resources that publishers and other educational organizations have submitted. So it's really been a lot smoother than I think a lot of us anticipated. I mean, it's a challenge for all of us. I'm the oldest one here, probably on the call, so it's a little bit a little bit challenging to figure this out. But I think overall it's gone pretty well.
Yeah, we have a great instructional design team that really rose to the occasion, where they would have virtual Zoom office hours almost 24/7. I mean, certainly 12 hours a day, where you could just Zoom right in and say, okay, I'm having trouble with this. How do I do it? And we could get help. So I think for most of us, it's been as smooth a transition as is possible when you're in the middle of the semester. I was teaching a graduate hybrid course, which was already half online, so it was a really easy switch for them. But I've been talking to a lot of my students when I'm advising them, asking them how it's going. And the sentiment that I'm getting actually is there's very few issues with classes themselves. What most students are talking about is that they're sad, right? They're sad that the semester got cut short and they miss their friends and they miss that online interaction. But I'm not hearing a lot of concerns about classes themselves, which is a good thing.
I would echo that. One of the things that I think has been really nice that came out of this is a lot of my students have emailed me just to check in and see how things are going, which I think is really nice. And I think really sort of speaks to our community as a whole and the relationships that the faculty members have with students and vice versa. I miss them. And so I send them emails all the time, just sort of checking in, and it's nice to get them back from them as well.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions about anything for any one of us or anything that you're wondering about? Okay, so what I'm going to do is over in the chat feature, I put my name, my title, so like what I do at the university, and my email address. So if you guys want to do that, Brittany and Megan, if you're comfortable with that, you can, just so that people have a contact if they have any more questions about anything. Other than that, that was pretty much it. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining and spending your Sunday morning with us. And enjoy the rest of the sessions, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Be well.
Good luck, everybody. Take care. Stay well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.